White dress. Not just white, but ivory white, the saleswoman had called it. Lace so delicate, like spun moonlight, they said. The scent a suffocating cloud of 1,000 lilies, filling the air, heavy and sweet. It was supposed to be a dream. My dream. Walking down that impossibly long aisle, each step feeling like a mile, sunlight fracturing into rainbows through the stained glass windows of the grand cathedral. And there, at the altar, bathed in that golden light, was Jihoon. My Jihoon, or so I thought. He looked perfect. The perfect husband. It was everything I had ever imagined. A perfect beginning. A fairy tale spun from hopes and whispered promises. I truly, deeply, desperately believed in that shimmering, blinding moment that my life was finally starting. That all the lonely years, all the quiet, secret hopes I'd whispered to the stars on cold nights were culminating, blossoming into this breathtaking, radiant promise. But even in the heart of all that dazzling, overwhelming beauty, a shadow stretched out cold and long. A subtle, insidious chill that I couldn't quite name, couldn't quite place my finger on. A note ever so slightly off-key, in the otherwise flawless symphony of joy. It was her, Jihoon's mother. From the very first moment our families met, across that stiff, formal table laden with untouched food, she had been present. No, not just present. Dominating. A silent, unwavering force. At first, in my naivety, in my eagerness to please, to be accepted, I told myself it was just her way. Her way of showing she cared, of being involved. She was so involved in the wedding planning, it was almost breathtaking. Choosing the venue, no, dictating the venue. The flowers, not asking for my preferences, but ordering arrangements that were grand, imposing, and utterly devoid of any personal touch. Even the shade of white for my dress, not ivory, not cream, but whiter than white, she had insisted, her voice brooking no argument. For purity, she declared, her eyes lingering on me with a pointed, unsettling look that made me blush crimson and feel strangely, uncomfortably inspected, like I was under a microscope. During the ceremony itself, as I walked, as I recited my vows, as I tried to focus on Jihoon's supposed loving gaze, I could feel her eyes on me, burning into me. Not a warm, welcoming gaze of a mother about to gain a daughter. No, something else entirely. Something assessing, coldly evaluating. Like I wasn't a person, a woman about to join their family, but a prized possession, a valuable acquisition, being meticulously presented, catalogued, and judged. After the vows, after the forced smiles and polite applause, when we turned to face our families, her smile was tight, stretched thin, like it might crack at any moment. And when she hugged me, it wasn't the warm, comforting embrace you expect from a mother-in-law on your wedding day. It was possessive, territorial. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her fingers digging into my back. And her voice, low and husky, almost a growl, whispered in my ear, so close I could feel her breath. Welcome to the family, dear. Now, let's make sure you make this family even bigger, shall we? I remember laughing nervously, a brittle, shaky sound that echoed falsely in the celebratory air, thinking it was just wedding day excitement. Silly, foolish, naive me. So utterly, tragically silly. The honeymoon. Santorini. Jihoon, bless his heart, had insisted on Santorini. Whitewashed houses clinging precariously to volcanic cliffs, sunsets that bled across the Aegean, painting the sky in impossible hues of orange, pink, and gold. Romantic, right? Picture perfect. The brochures promised paradise. Wrong. So utterly, devastatingly wrong. From the precise moment we checked into our pristine, white-walled hotel room, the phone started ringing. A shrill, demanding ring that shattered the illusion of peace before it even had a chance to form. It was her. Of course, it was her. Every morning, before the sun even dared to peek over the horizon, the phone would scream. Every evening, just as the promised sunsets began to blaze, interrupting our tentative attempts at intimacy, the phone would shriek again. Sometimes even during the day, brazenly intruding when Jihoon and I were desperately, futilely, trying to carve out a moment that was just ours. Are you eating well, dear? Her voice would boom across the crackling international line, demanding, not concerned. You need to be strong. Strong for what's coming. Are you resting enough? Sleep is paramount now. You need to be healthy. Healthy for us. Are you trying? That last question, that loaded, suffocating question, it hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating, even over the thousands of miles and the crackling, hissing static of the international phone line. Trying. Trying for what, exactly? It didn't take long, not long at all, to realize the horrifying, gut-wrenching truth. The honeymoon wasn't about us. About Jihoon and me. About building a life together. About love. No, it was about conception. Pure, unadulterated, relentless pressure to conceive. And Santorini, the breathtaking sunsets, the supposed romance, the whitewashed walls, the azure sea, it was all just a meticulously crafted, expensive backdrop. A beautiful, sun-drenched, utterly inescapable gilded cage. We came back from Santorini, sun-kissed on the surface, but utterly drained, hollowed out inside. Exhausted not just from travel, but from the constant, suffocating pressure. And we arrived back at our apartment, our sanctuary, our supposed haven, only to find she had been there. She had rearranged our entire apartment, like some invading force sweeping through and claiming territory. For better flow, she chirped brightly when we walked in, surveying her handiwork with a smug, satisfied smile, as if she had done us some immense, invaluable favor. My books, carefully arranged by genre and author, my comfort, my friends scattered, shoved into boxes, banished from sight. My photos, snapshots of precious memories, of laughter and joy, turned face down, hidden away. The little trinkets, the small, insignificant objects that held sentimental value, that made our space ours, that whispered stories of our shared life, all gone. Vanished, replaced. Replaced with heavy, ornate, suffocatingly traditional furniture that screamed her taste. Dark wood, heavy fabrics, everything imposing, nothing comforting. It was like walking into a stranger's house. No worse, like walking into her house. And then the schedule began in earnest. Printed out, laminated, and taped to the refrigerator door, as if we were children who couldn't remember basic instructions. Breakfast at 7, sharp. Healthy Korean breakfast, of course, for you and the baby-to-be. Baby-to-be. Those two words, baby-to-be, they became her mantra, her constant refrain, echoing in every room, in every conversation, in every forced smile. Every meal, meticulously planned and prepared by her, every conversation, relentlessly steered back to the topic of babies. Every breath I took seemed to revolve around this phantom, this non-existent child. This child she so desperately craved, not for love, not for joy, but for lineage, for continuation, for control. She took over the kitchen, my kitchen, the heart of our home, now invaded, occupied. Suddenly, my carefully curated pantry, filled with ingredients I loved, with spices that told stories of my own culinary adventures, was overflowing, crammed to bursting, with jars of dubious, murky herbal concoctions, all supposedly meant to boost fertility. Teas that tasted like swamp water, bitter, acrid, and vile, forced down my throat every morning under her watchful, hawk-like gaze. Bitter pills, large and chalky, that I had to swallow with a strained, forced smile, while she nodded approvingly, like a warden overseeing a prisoner's medication. Doctor's appointments, endless, invasive, and utterly dehumanizing, were arranged without even a cursory consultation with me. Just routine checkups, dear, she'd explain, her voice dripping with false sweetness, to make sure everything is optimal. Optimal. That word again. Optimal for what? Optimal for breeding? Optimal for producing an heir? I started to feel less and less like a wife, a woman, a person, and more like livestock. A prize-winning cow being fattened up, poked and prodded, and meticulously prepared for production. My friends called, bless their oblivious, well-meaning hearts, wanting to catch up, to hear all about the romantic honeymoon in Santorini. But every time I tentatively, nervously tried to make plans to snatch back a piece of my old life, she would smoothly, efficiently, ruthlessly intervene. Oh, dear, you really shouldn't tire yourself out. Rest is so very important now. For the baby. Always for the baby. Socializing can wait. Your health is the priority. Slowly, insidiously, subtly, she began to isolate me, cutting me off from my support system, from my friends, from my life before Jihoon, before her. My world, once vibrant and expansive, shrank, day by suffocating day, to the four oppressive walls of our rearranged, alien apartment. And within those walls, within that increasingly claustrophobic space, her presence was inescapable. A shadow clinging to every corner, a whisper in every room, a constant, crushing weight. Jihoon, he was there, physically present, a body moving through the rooms, eating the meals she prepared, nodding at her pronouncements. But emotionally, mentally, he was light years away, lost in some distant galaxy of his own making. He'd nod and agree with everything his mother said, every pronouncement, every demand, a weak, placating smile plastered permanently on his face, a smile that never reached his vacant eyes. If I dared to try to talk to him, to reach through the wall she had built between us, to express my suffocating fear, my growing despair, my desperate need for escape, he'd dismiss it all with a wave of his hand and that same empty smile. Mom just cares, honey. She just wants what's best for us, for the family. For her family, I wanted to scream. Not mine, not us. There was no us anymore. There was only her family, and I was merely an instrument, a tool, a means to an end. One evening, weeks blurred into months, time losing all meaning in the oppressive monotony. I was searching for a lost earring, a tiny, silver heart, a gift from my grandmother, something precious I couldn't bear to lose. Kneeling down by the bedside table, peering into the dimly lit space beneath, my fingers brushing against dust bunnies and forgotten objects, I saw it. Not my earring, something else entirely. A tiny, almost imperceptible glint of metal, reflecting the faint light filtering through the curtains. Tucked under the very edge of the dark wood, almost invisible. A camera, hidden, so small, so insidious, so utterly, terrifyingly violating. My blood ran cold, turning to ice in my veins. A wave of nausea washed over me, while rising in my throat. I started searching, my hands trembling, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The bedroom, underneath lampshades, behind picture frames, nestled amongst the artificial flowers she had insisted on placing everywhere. The living room, concealed in books, tucked into corners, camouflaged against the dark furniture. Even the bathroom, behind the mirror inside the shower head, pointed directly at the toilet. Tiny, pinhole cameras everywhere, watching, recording, my privacy, my life, my most intimate moments being meticulously documented, cataloged, archived. Without my knowledge, without my consent. Who was watching? And why? What were they doing with these recordings? Fear, raw and primal, turned into a cold, hard knot in my stomach. This wasn't just overbearing. This wasn't just controlling. This was sinister. This was something deeply, fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong. I had to know. I had to find out who was behind this, what they were doing with those stolen, violated recordings. The paranoia was consuming me, eating away at my sanity, turning every shadow into a threat, every sound into a footstep, every silence into a watchful presence. Late one night, when the house was finally blessedly quiet, when I was as sure as I could possibly be that they were both asleep, Jihoon and his shadow, his mother, I crept out of bed. My movements slow, deliberate, barely breathing. I moved like a ghost through the darkened apartment, the silence amplifying every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of fabric. I slipped into his study, Jihoon's study, a room I was rarely allowed to enter, another territory claimed and controlled by her. He always left his computer on. A careless habit, he called it. But now, in the cold light of suspicion, It felt deliberate, calculated, like he wanted me to find something, or be found, a trap laid, waiting to be sprung. My hand shook uncontrollably as I plugged in a small, innocuous-looking USB drive, a lifeline, or so I desperately hoped. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, desperate drumbeat in the suffocating, oppressive silence. Each thump echoing in my ears, threatening to betray my presence. Files, folders and folders, neatly, meticulously labeled, organized with chilling efficiency. Living room, bedroom, bathroom. Each folder containing hours upon hours of video footage. Disgusting, voyeuristic. A sickening wave of revulsion washed over me. But then, my eyes caught something else. One folder, tucked away at the very bottom of the list, almost hidden, almost overlooked. In stark, unforgiving red letters, Project Lineage. Project Lineage? The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. A cold, suffocating dread washed over me, chilling me to the very bone. Lineage, family line, children. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning, with chilling implications. It all clicked into place with horrifying, gut-wrenching clarity. The pieces of the puzzle, scattered and confusing before, suddenly coalesced into a monstrous, terrifying picture. I opened the folder, my hand trembling so violently I could barely control the mouse. Videos, dozens of them, each one titled with a date, a time, and meeting. Meetings? Secret meetings? Between whom? I clicked on the first video, my breath caught in my throat. The screen flickered to life, casting a ghostly light across the darkened room. And there they were, Jihoon and his mother, sitting in her living room weeks before the wedding, months before, planning, plotting, conspiring. Their faces, illuminated by the laptop screen in the video, were smug, cold, calculating, unfamiliar, unrecognizable. My mother-in-law's voice, cold and sharp as shards of glass, sliced through me, through the silence like a knife. She's perfect, Jihoon. On paper, at least. Healthy, presentable, good family background, but not too good. Understand? Manageable. And her medical reports, excellent fertility scores. Optimal, the doctors said. We need grandchildren, Jihoon. Our lineage, our family name must continue. And quickly. Time is of the essence. Lineage, not love, not partnership, not happiness. Lineage, that was all that mattered. That was the sole, terrifying purpose of this entire charade. I was an incubator, a human vessel, a walking, talking womb. Nothing more, nothing less. Jihoon's voice weak, hesitant, barely audible in the video. But, Mom, what if she wants to wait? What if she has other plans for her life? What if she doesn't want children right away? His pathetic, weak protest. His mother scoffed, a cruel, dismissive laugh that echoed in the silence of my own study, even though it was years old, recorded on a screen. Wants? Her wants are utterly irrelevant, Jihoon. Insignificant. She will do as she is told. That's what wives are for. That's their purpose. You will guide her, Jihoon. Remind her of her duties. This marriage is not about love, understand? Don't be so naive. It's about legacy. It's about securing our future. It's about lineage, legacy, duties, purpose. I was a duty. My life, my body, my dreams, my very being all reduced, stripped bare, and callously redefined as a mere duty. A legacy project. An incubator for their precious lineage. Tears streamed down my face, hot, furious, bitter tears of betrayal and utter, devastating heartbreak. Everything I thought was real, everything I had hoped for, everything I had believed in a lie. A meticulously crafted, cruel, monstrous lie. From the very beginning, I stumbled blindly out of the study, the USB drive clutched tight in my trembling hand, my body shaking uncontrollably with a mixture of rage and fear. They were in the living room, sitting on the plush, ornate sofa, bathed in the soft, deceptive glow of the evening lamps, sipping tea from delicate china cups. like nothing was wrong, like they hadn't just orchestrated, planned, and executed the systematic destruction of my entire world. Like they hadn't just ripped my heart out and stomped on it. I threw the USB drive onto the glass coffee table. It clattered loudly, a sharp, angry, defiant sound that shattered the fragile, manufactured peace, the suffocating pretense of normalcy. You planned this. I screamed, my voice raw, ragged, broken, barely recognizable even to myself. All of it. The wedding, the honeymoon pressure, the baby obsession, me. You don't see me. You never saw me. You just see me as a fertility machine. As a walking womb. Jihoon stammered, his face paling, his eyes widening in feigned shock. Honey, please calm down. You're not thinking straight. Let's talk about this rationally. Talk? Rationally? After everything? After years of deception, of manipulation, of utter, callous disregard for my very existence? I cut him off, my voice icy, dangerously low, laced with a venom I didn't know I possessed. Don't you dare call me honey. Not anymore. Never again. I saw the videos. I heard you both. Project Lineage. What gives you the right? What gives either of you the right to decide my life, my body, my future? I am not your property. I am not an object. I am a person, a human being. Her hand flashed out with shocking speed. My mother-in-law's hand. Hard, cold, and unforgiving. A stinging, brutal slap across my face. The force of it rocked me back on my heels. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating, broken only by my ragged breathing and the frantic pounding of my heart. My cheek burned, throbbing with pain, but the physical pain was nothing, insignificant, inconsequential compared to the gaping, bleeding wound in my heart. Jihoon just stood there, frozen, paralyzed, useless, pathetic, his eyes darting between his mother and me, utterly incapable of action, of defense, of anything resembling human empathy. In that moment, staring into his empty, cowardly eyes, I knew, with absolute, terrifying certainty, there was no reasoning with them, no pleading, no arguing, no escape within these walls. The walls were closing in, tighter and tighter, suffocating me. I had to run. I had to get out. Now, before it was too late, before they consumed me entirely. I ran. I didn't grab a coat, didn't pack a bag, didn't even think. I just ran, out of the apartment, slamming the door behind me with a force that echoed through the building. Down the stairs, two at a time, my feet pounding a frantic rhythm against the cold concrete. Into the night, leaving everything behind. My clothes, my possessions, my carefully constructed life, my shattered dreams, my gilded cage. The cool night air hit my face, a welcome shock, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe. Real breath. Deep, cleansing breath. Freedom. A fleeting, fragile, almost hallucinatory sense of freedom washed over me. A momentary reprieve from the suffocating weight of their control. Just being away from that house, from her, from him, from the oppressive atmosphere of that manufactured life, it was a relief so profound, so overwhelming. It almost brought me to my knees in gratitude. Or perhaps in exhaustion. Or maybe just in sheer, bone-deep relief. I found a cheap motel miles away, in a part of the city I barely recognized. Anonymous, dingy, smelling faintly of stale cigarettes and disinfectant. But it was safe. Or at least, it felt safe for a fleeting moment. Huddled in the thin, scratchy blanket on the lumpy bed, wrapped in a cocoon of fragile anonymity, I felt hidden. But the feeling didn't last. It was as ephemeral as smoke. Every creak of the floorboards in the hallway outside, every passing car's headlights sweeping across the grimy window, every distant siren wailing in the night, made me jump, made my heart race. I kept looking over my shoulder, peering into the shadows, expecting to see her face. Cold, furious, triumphant, looming in the darkness. Were they looking for me? Were they already searching? Were they tracking me? The cameras, were they just in the apartment? Or everywhere? Had their surveillance extended beyond those walls, creeping into every corner of my life? Was I ever truly alone? My phone buzzed, vibrating insistently on the bedside table. An unknown number flashed across the screen. My hand froze, hovering above it, trembling. Could it be them? Was this another trap? Another way to control me, to reel me back in, to drag me back into their suffocating world? Was it a threat? Or worse, a lure? Against every instinct screaming at me to ignore it, to throw the phone across the room, to run again, I answered it. My voice barely a whisper, a fragile thread of sound in the oppressive silence of the motel room. Hello. Silence. Only static, hissing faintly in the speaker. Then a sound. Not a human voice. Something else. Distorted, synthesized, mechanical. Cold and emotionless, like a machine speaking. Like a program reciting lines. Lineage must be preserved. Click. The line went dead. The connection severed, leaving only the chilling echo of those words hanging in the air. Lineage must be preserved. Her words, her obsession, her terrifying, all-consuming goal. Even miles away, hidden in the anonymity of the vast city night, they found me. They were still watching, still controlling, still reaching out, their icy fingers grasping for me, even in the darkness. Freedom, it was an illusion, a cruel, fleeting mirage in the desert of my despair. I had escaped the cage, yes, but the bars were still there, invisible, unbreakable, surrounding me, enclosing me, trapped, always trapped. And the nightmare was far from over. It had only just begun.